Okay, Alicia, looks like we're streaming.
Yeah, just double checking. Okay. Ready to go.
Okay. Okay, we'll call the October 20th, 2022 Planning Commission meeting to order. First thing I'll do is I will read the determination letter. The Planning Commission Chair of the Town of Hideout hereby determines that conducting a meeting with the anchor location presents a substantial risk to the health and safety of those who may be present at the anchor location. Pursuant to Utah Code Section 52-4-207, subsection 5, and Hideout Town Ordinance 2020-03. The facts upon which this determination is based include the 7-day rolling percent and number of positive COVID-19 cases in Utah has been over 16.27% of those tested since September 30th, 2022. The 7-day number of positive cases has been on average 247 per day since October 5th, 2022. This meeting will not have a physical anchor location. All participants will connect remotely. All public meetings are available via YouTube live stream on the Hideout Utah YouTube channel. Okay, now that that's taken care of, we'll take a roll call. Glynis?
Here.
Donna?
Here.
Jonathan?
Here.
Tony's here, and Ryan and Rachel are absent. Okay, first thing on the agenda for public comment. First, we're going to skip to number 2 first, phase 3 of the Deer Springs. They have asked that to be put over. I'm going to assume, Alicia, and correct me if I'm wrong, that also is going to take into account the first item on the agenda items, the plan approval of phase 3 of Deer Springs. Am I correct in assuming that?
Yep, Tony, that's right. That's correct. They did ask to be continued. I think we may need to take a vote to formally continue that to the meeting in November. Is that right, Polly?
Yeah, and I can't remember, was it noticed as a public hearing? If
It
so,
was.
then
Yes.
you should open the public
Open
hearing,
it up.
Yes.
see if anyone
And-
wants to speak about it, and then close it
Take a
and
vote to
continue
continue
it
to a date certain in November.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Okay.
Okay, at this time then, we will open for public hearing. Any comments on phase 3 of Deer Springs?
Tony, I'll check for you. I don't see any hands right now. Hang on. Tony, I don't see any hands.
Okay, there being no public comment, we will close the public comment part of
Excuse
item
me,
number
Tony.
2.
I had a
Yes.
question. Do we need to make a motion to approve the minutes from August 18th?
Yes, you're absolutely correct. I apologize for that. It's on the bottom of my page here after roll call.
Okay.
But let's close out phase 3 first, and then we'll do the minutes. Would anybody like to make a motion to put phase 3 of Deer Springs over to a date certain in November?
So it'd be a date certain. It'd be your next regularly scheduled meeting on November 17th at 6 p.m.
Thank you, Thomas.
So moved.
Thank you, Jonathan. Does anybody second it?
I'll second it.
Thank you. Okay, we'll take the vote. Glynis,
Yes.
Donna,
Yes.
Jonathan,
Yes.
and Tony's a yes. Thank you all. Okay, now for the part that I forgot, would anybody like to make, does anybody have any comments in regards to the minutes of the prior month's meeting?
I had one minor edit, like really minor, and now I can't find my minutes. It's on the first line. There's a the that got in there twice, it looks like. Do we have the minutes? Can you scroll up? Keep scrolling. Yeah. Town planner Thomas Eddington provided background on this matter and reminded the planning, just,
Oh, thank you. I'll fix that.
other than that, I have no other comments.
Thanks, Glennis.
Does
I'll get that.
anybody else have any other comments in regards to the meeting minutes from September? Okay, there being no other questions in regard to that, will somebody like to make a motion to accept them?
I'll move that we accept the August 18th, 2022 Planning Commission minutes.
Okay, does anybody second that?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Jonathan. Okay, Glynis,
Yes.
Donna,
Yes,
Jonathan,
Yes.
and I will abstain as I did not attend last month's meeting. Okay, on to the first item for public discussion, phase 2 and 3 of the Lakeview Estates subdivision. Thomas, would you mind giving a quick overview of that? What
Sure.
we're looking at here? Thank you.
Sure. So you guys may remember that Lakeview Estates is it's approximately 22-acre subdivision. 69 lots were proposed. This went through some significant revisions with both the Planning Commission and the Town Council at the time. A redesign that included much better connectivity to the shoreline development, a reduction in size of retaining walls, et cetera. So it was a pretty thorough preliminary and final subdivision that was approved. They're coming back to you in phases. There will be 3 phases. They're coming back for phases 2 and 3. Generally, this is being done because of the timing of recordation for these 2 phases. And so this is a pretty straightforward application. Nothing has changed since the original preliminary and final subdivision approval. And it's worth noting that your code, your zoning code, your zoning ordinance has also not changed. So everything that was applicable is still applicable. There's nothing new proposed. Maybe you could scroll down to the next page. Certainly there you can kind of see where this is in context. That's Deer Waters is kind of the triangle on top on the north side, and then certainly shoreline on the bottom. It's the western property line for Lakeview is of course the state park. You can scroll to the next image, and just kind of as a reminder, this is the entire subdivision. You can see phase 3 kind of there on the bottom, in the middle bottom right. Phase 2 is kind of on that middle left. Phase 1 is the smaller area that is kind of there on the north side. It's a little bit hard to see, but again, we're really discussing phases 2 and 3 tonight. Phase 1 is the one that connects up into Deer Waters. If you go down to the next page, there you go. So generally, all of the site planning work that was done with both you all, the Planning Commission, and the Town Council remains the same. Lots, these are single family units. Lots are generally about 65 to 100, 65 feet wide by 100 feet deep. You could see there that there were some recommendations by the Planning Commission and approved by the Town Council to reduce some rear yard setbacks, to get some very, very tall retaining walls at the time significantly reduced. So front yard setbacks were at 25 and 30 feet. Now they're at 20 and 25 feet. That was approved by both Planning Commission and the Town Council. Again, that brought down and eliminated a number of retaining walls throughout the project. Also, it's worth noting, there is at the back of this packet, if you're looking at it, a set of deed restrictions. Those deed restrictions were updated to incorporate these new setbacks. The reason the deed restrictions were put into place for this project is that it was originally a mountain zoned property, which is really 1 unit per 1 acre. it was given an MPD, an overlay, a master plan development overlay, and with that, it allowed additional density. The Planning Commission and the Town Council at that time were concerned that there could be additional heights as a result of its prior zoning or its proposed zoning in the MPD, which is residential medium density, gives additional density, heights, reduced setbacks, that kind of thing. The allowance by the Planning Commission and the Town Council at the time was to increase density, but they didn't want the setbacks to become that of residential medium density. So deed restrictions were written that basically kept the setbacks, the heights in line with residential single family zoning. And so that's why you see deed restrictions. Normally we don't do that, but that was done because this went from mountain residential to residential medium density in the MPD to allow the density. So that's just kind of a clarification, a technical issue, but if there were a question why that is in the back of the packet, that's why. If you go up to the next page, I had outlined a number of questions that are really not as important to the subdivision, but more important to the construction drawings. Since this report went out, the applicant has reached out to me and addressed all of these questions. Just today, I received an entire construction plan set. So many of these questions have been answered. And so I'll kind of walk through these somewhat quickly. If you want to see any of this, I can probably share my screen and show you, but parks and open space, the requirements have been met for 20%. The applicant provided what the dog wash facility looks like, what the park looks like, what's in and around the park, how it's landscaped. It generally conforms to exactly what was recommended by the Planning Commission and the Town Council early on. There has been a small area of land dedicated, you can scroll down just a little bit, a small area of land dedicated to the town. This is right adjacent to the boundary with the state park. This allows us to connect trails into the state park once an agreement is reached with the state park system, so that we can cross those two to have that.
Where is that area? Where along the egress is this area?
I'll tell you what, if you can, Alicia, could you scroll up to maybe that kind of pink outlined map? Maybe I can point it out here. I can't annotate, can I? So at the very top left corner is where that's going to be.
Near what lot?
It'll be in that open space area, the very top left corner of the square. Alicia, do you have access to your mouse? Can you point to that far top left corner of the, keep going left, right there, right up there, higher, right there. It's actually a little bitty area right where that hand is. And that's where the trail in Lakeview will be constructed. So that would be the logical crossing point. That would be land dedicated to the town.
It's already there.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, this is actually under construction. Yeah.
Okay, terrific. Thank you.
Yeah. We had some questions with regard to the retaining walls. We got the construction plan submittals today. They are keeping them within the 5 and 10 foot height limits that were recommended. Again, early on, they were at the 18 to 20 plus foot heights. So those have been reduced. The detention basin is on the very bottom left corner. Maybe Alicia, if you don't mind swinging your mouse over that way. Very bottom left, that triangle back there. Yep, that big triangle down there, that whole thing down there is actually the detention basin. We'll work with the applicant to make sure that it is as natural looking as it can be, native vegetation, et cetera, but yet meeting the requirements of the civil engineering standards for a basin. Actually, that's probably it. Sensitive lands were identified, and they tried to stay off the steep slopes as much as possible. That wasn't as applicable to this project at the time because it received its MPD and was vested under the prior code initially, but they did provide that information. And so,
Thomas?
Yep.
Is the dog wash the blue cyan thing?
No, where
Down by
that
the
blue is,
parking?
that blue there is a half basketball court with some tables and kind of a park-like area. And Alicia, if I could guide your hand, go up about 3 inches. keep going. You go to the very top left-hand corner, sorry, where that, right there is where the dog wash is. Right in that location, which is also on a trail that is being constructed within Lakeview. So that facility will be located just in that open space.
Will it involve
And
some kind
you're-
of structure or canopy or just an open wash station?
It's an open wash station. It doesn't have a canopy, but it has a metal kind of it's a 2 or 3 sided kind of metal framework with a hose facility and a pad, a concrete pad on which you can wash dogs. But it's not a big structure. It's not obtrusive in any way. But by also not being a structure, it's not protected from rain and snow, if that were your question. So catch 22 there, right?
Thank you.
And so
Thomas,
on
is he
your,
putting a fence around the half basketball court there?
I should at this time point out that PT from Holmes is on, and maybe Gray or Mark Garza are on, and Nate Brockbank I think is on, but he's really on for the Deer Spring Cottage development. But PT, you may want to answer that. I don't remember seeing that, but I could try to pull up my construction plan set that you sent me today.
Yeah, I can. Thanks for that, Thomas. And thanks, commissioners. Yeah, there will be. We have that set up for dual use actually too. It'll be one pickleball court or the basketball. So it's an either or type of setup on that playground, play area. And yeah, it's going to be a low fence, like a 3.5 foot typical pickleball, because it's flat down in that area. There's not a lot of.
If you go to a typical pickleball court, the fence is usually 8 to 10 feet because you usually, especially with the way that's open down there to the lake, to the reservoir, you're going to get the wind coming up. So then you put the windshield up around the court.
Yeah,
the only place
PT, I could work with you on that because we did work with Nate on the pickleball courts up in Deer Waters, and I think we generally had 6, 8, or 10, maybe a 10-foot high on the downslope side. So maybe we could work on that and maybe tidy those.
And
up.
we're open to that for sure.
Yeah.
We've seen a lot of the new communities are going with the much lower line fence, so you're not obstructing your view. So the fence isn't your view. They're more open. That's what more I mean is that to that lakeside, it'll be a little lower, less obtrusive. If we felt like there was an area, I mean, it's flat as can be down in that little basin. And so it's not quite like Nate's where if you lose a ball, you're going to be picking it up at GCD. But yeah, we can work with that and talk about it. It's not,
I'm just, as somebody who plays a lot, I'm just more concerned with the wind. Because even the ones that are over in town, I mean, they don't have the netting up on them, even though they have a 10-foot fence. If you go to play on a windy day, you just watch the ball sail from one side of the court to the other with the wind. So you can't even play.
Yeah, and we would be fine with that. It's just kind of trying to keep up with those newer designs, but it's great to hear from somebody who's playing, quite a bit. So yeah, we can work on that.
Thank you.
And then as far as any other questions, I think Thomas really read you right through that really well. The dog wash does have a little section where you could set smaller dogs up. It has a kind of a wash through. If you're washing, it would wash down to the gravel below. And so you don't have to bend down to clean your dog. If your dog is a smaller dog, it could be on the platform. And so it's a little, it's like you said, it's just a station, but it is a location that you can come off the state park, spray your dog off and come into the asphalt trails and run back to home. So. I'm not sure if we had any other open items that we wanted to close off as far as questions and stuff.
PT, one of the items that I think you and I discussed earlier and the Planning Commission may remember and or have a question about it is right over there near lot, I think it's 318, 319, kind of in this area. This is kind of that steep slope. I think you're going to have a path with steps to get these folks up to the pickleball courts that are in Deer Waters. Is that right?
Yeah, that path is actually already in, and we were able to do it without stairs. We rerouted it. There's some different constraints that happen along those property lines between Deer Waters and us. But we actually were able to stay in that that open space parcel and wind that up differently to where we didn't have to have the stairs. So
One other question in regard to the basketball slash pickleball court. Is there any parking right around there for people? Like, let's say if you wanted to drive over from Shoreline or any, other parts of the town to go play there.
yeah, I can't count them just because it's a little small right here, but I think there's about 10 stalls there. Just right
Oh,
in
okay.
front of that area right there.
Okay,
And I
great.
think there were a
Thank you.
few additional stalls placed up here. If you can see that blue circle up there, I
Yep.
think you had a couple of locations with additional parking.
Yep. Yep. Also notable on the parking, Thomas, also, we talked about putting it up by Shoreline too. So if you could come into Lakeview, we've got about 5 or 6 stalls there, and then you could walk to the upper pickleballs from the Deerwater side. So there's more parking in there too. So you've marked those two. If you go up to the Shoreline Drive, come down to the Lakeview right next to that lot. I can't read it. Is it 321 but it's on our Lakeview Road, not Shoreline. So if you just opposite of where you had it, basically.
Oh, kind of here.
Let's see. I'm not seeing anything now. Yep, right there. There's about
Okay.
5 or 6 stalls there too. So you could kind of get into that Deerwater section, which would be helpful as well.
And then walk up here.
Excuse me, where's the existing pickleball court right now on that map?
Right there.
Right there, okay.
Yep.
That's a big section. You mean like right where the end of the arrow is there?
Yeah, right by the end of the arrow. It's a little park area with pickleball courts, and it's upslope. Keep that in mind.
Right. Yeah, I did see that. Looks nice. I know other people who people who played there. Maybe even Tony has recently. But how do we access that? Because it doesn't seem like there is parking for that.
There is a few in Deer Waters as well. We're not looking at that map right now. I mean, we're looking at the edge of it, but there is a couple of Nate's put in about, I think 2 on that road alone, about 4 or 5 stalls in a couple different areas. So,
okay. All right. It just didn't seem like there was an easy way to get in there. And I was just wondering, I mean, a lot of people can ride their bikes or walk, but I just was wondering. And then if you add the stalls like up there in the corner where you had it circled before, up by Shoreline, I think that would be a good idea too. Yeah.
Yeah, and if you drive by, they're already there. They're already in.
Oh, good. Okay.
It's all paved and ready to go. So.
Oh, thanks, Thomas. All right.
So I was approached by some residents that are on Stargazer at the southern end. And I guess there's a path that's coming down from above. And the question was, the path is not clearly identifiable just yet. Do we have a map or something that would show where that path is going to cross Stargazer and loop around the southernmost home on that block, so we could see just where is that path going?
Yep.
Is that the right area? Did I highlight what you're talking about, Jonathan?
Yeah.
Right there at the top?
I think it is.
And then this house was added as part of the redesign for Lakeview. And so my understanding, PT jump in, my understanding is now the path that would go through there will come around here. And I know that Carol Tomas has reached out to us about exactly where is that path going? How close to the house will it be? And there's some Gamble Oak, I think, in that area that folks would like to see protected as much as possible. And I know that may be a challenge for PT and the construction crew, but maybe PT, you could speak to that.
Yep. So right up, I think Thomas did a good job of annotating that for as small as it is, but it will follow the lot line of Lakeview subdivision and come around that new single townhome. And Jonathan, I know you're real familiar with that street. And so it doesn't come between the existing and the new one. It comes around and borders Lakeview very closely to what he drew there, more in a straight 90-degree angle as it comes around that back. We would love to keep any and all of those trees that we can. I cannot tell you if they're My worst fear is I think they're right in the middle of one of those build areas, but if they're not, I mean, we're going to leave them. I mean, that's the whole point. If we can, I've left them this long. If I wasn't leaving them, I would have tore them out for sure, but we're going to try to leave anything we can.
Is the pathway staked or something so that, Carol Tomas and some other people could kind of figure out where it's going? Is there some marking where that path is going to go so they could see it?
If they wanted to meet me up there, yes. I mean, the curb mark for that property line for that first lot 104 in Lakeview is marked and the rear property is marked. So that would signify right where that's going to go. And then it would come back to the back of that lot and then it's going to veer over to tie into where it's currently asphalted to at this point. So it's just it's a tie back. So yeah, we could look at it with them.
Okay. I'm sure they're going to give you a call.
Yeah. And I think I sent a screenshot of that to Jason, our one of our other managers, and he sent it right over to Carol this afternoon. She's probably already seen it, but I'd be happy to meet her out there and look at it.
Terrific. Thank you.
And just one more thing while we're on that, PT, what's the approximate width of that path? It's asphalt and about how wide?
So that section, I believe, is 6 foot as
Okay.
it comes around that, and then it opens back up to the full open space 10 foot. So just to keep between the homes to keep it down, if you will, and then it opens right back up.
Oh, good. I'm glad you were able to get 6 in there. I'm almost surprised. Good.
And then I was also approached by some residents about drainage issues. We have a problem with stormwater that is eroding the emergency egress pathway. And it starts up in Deer Waters, and I know PT, that's not you, but the water does continue to run down and erode to the east of this subdivision. And I guess this is a question for the town and PT both. Are we absolutely convinced that the plumbing for all the storm runoff is going to be sufficient and it won't be constantly eroding the emergency egress, kind of making it unusable and defeating the whole purpose of having it?
Thomas, sorry, Jonathan, when you're talking about the emergency egress, where on this map, where are you talking about? If I just could be.
So that would be that roughly 12-foot wide crushed rock gravel path that abuts right up to the east. Yes, the east side of the park.
Okay, I'm still not.
So I wish I had the ability to point it out, but it's the emergency egress.
Are you talking about on the west by the lake right here? So the left side of our lot, our
PT about the utility easement. I mean, it was called out as the emergency.
Okay, so right where it's highlighted right now in green.
Yep.
Okay, so the west. Sorry, John, that's where I got backwards. I guess that's more. I was thinking that's more west.
Yeah,
Maybe I'm-
east side of the park, west side of Lakeview. Yeah,
Exactly. Thank you, Thomas.
you're welcome.
There you go. So, yeah, so, I mean, we didn't asphalt our section yet because we've got a project with Hideout to run those sewer lines up there. When we do that, we will put more drainage rock along that edge of that asphalt to help that. But until then, I don't have much to do in that section until we get that section ran through, which that project has started. And I know is moving forward, and I don't know, Tim might have some more to add to that, but I know we'll have a little bit of riprap along that new asphalt we placed there. And then I think, John, what you're asking is it's asphalted where your Deerwater's location is. And I think, I mean, between Nate or I, we could put some riprap up against that edge, and so it just contains it as it comes down.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that we don't have a stormwater problem that's going to constantly erode that pathway and making it unusable in the event of some kind of emergency. And I just want to make sure that, between you and the town and the engineers, we figured out whatever it is. I obviously don't know what it takes, but I just want to make sure that we've kind of figured that out so that we don't have a constant problem back there.
Yep, and we'll be disrupting that whole area here shortly, or first thing in the spring, to run those new lines. And Tim, we'll work right with Tim Dixon to figure out anything that we need to in that section. So
Fair enough. Thank you.
I would assume Tim Dixon. I mean, I'm dropping. I mean, Tim's on the line. I know. So
Hoping you don't know something I don't know. Thanks, PT. Appreciate that.
And so is there, as part of the phasing, is there, is the new sewer run, that is the new pumping station down in Shoreline and the new line that's going to run up along that same edge of the park egress, is that built into the phasing and timing of this project, or is that something that runs in parallel?
It's kind of both. It's running outside of it because we have some ERUs in phase 2 that we can use up currently with sewer capacity, and so we have some time to still come into phase 2 and phase 3, but it's running simultaneously. The pump station started. We're wanting to run the new lines down that section of roadway as soon as possible, and we're working that out with the engineering at Hideout on working out even some changes that we are hoping to make. And I think Tim's hoping we can make them and get some new, even another line added to that for future. So
is that going to be wrapped into the phasing for this project, or does it just kind of float along?
I guess I'd let Tim or Tom, I mean, it's separate from us. The only thing that wraps into my phasing, John, that you're aware of, is as soon as that's done and built, then we will grab that sewer line and eliminate the pump station for Deerwater's phase 1. And so that's the only thing that really ties to my plan set, is connecting that, but it can't be connected until that station is online.
Okay. And can we all safely, can you assure us that there will be no more above ground sewer pumping stations anywhere in this project?
In this project, I can, for sure, because that's how it's designed. It's designed to eliminate yours and to not have any for us or Deerwater's phase 3 and 4. And then GCD wraps into that whole system. So I don't think you could even say that area, if you will. So
yeah, I just want to make sure that nobody in the town is going to have to put up with one of those things.
Mm-hmm. That was the hope, and that's why we're all kind of making sure we got the best pump situation and the best scenario there. So appreciate your guys' patience on that, but it's come a long ways, and we're actually really happy with what we're able to provide the town. It went from a very small project to just adding a pump to be sufficient to an entirely new pump station with quite a bit of capacity and overload capacity. And that's not my field. That'd be more Tim and Ryan's field, or Dylan, but it's pretty, it's going to be pretty great, I think, for the town.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you for addressing those questions.
Do any of the other commission members have any questions for anyone?
Actually, I do have a question. May have missed it. Was a street lighting included in this or not?
We do have streetlights included in this.
Okay, and are they pointed downwards, or if we ever go dark sky?
No,
are
actually,
they
Donna, that's a very good question. You're
compliant?
asking. We've been working with Deer Springs and early on Lakeview to make sure that they're dark skies compliant. And just so you all know, the council at the last meeting did approve the dark skies ordinance. So now we do have to adhere to dark skies. So we'll make sure to work with PT that they're downward facing and they meet our dark skies ordinance. But we've been doing that as best as possible over the course of the past couple of years with DRC Design Review Committee review.
Perfect, because I wouldn't want extra costs on our taxpayers to have to change all those lights.
Smart.
Okay, thank you.
Is there a reason why the road is not open?
It's neither Tim or I could answer that. I mean, that's one of the reasons for this meeting is the roads are all in and completed and done. We're just ready to record plats, and inspections are all handled. And that's what we're basically doing is getting this back to where we can record the plats. As soon as the plats are recorded, when we record the plats, those roads turn into town roads. Until then, they're private property, which means I can't have anybody on them because I'm liable.
Got it. Thank you.
And we're excited to get them open.
So am I.
PT will tell you, when's the first time I called you, you think? Do you remember PT? Was it March, maybe? No.
Yeah, it was definitely
Maybe
early
June.
spring.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. So,
I can
Yeah.
tell you that a number of vehicles have found a way around the concrete barriers, just a little bit to the east of them. So for some people, at least, it is partially open now.
All the Jeep owners.
Yes.
Are there any other questions from the commission? Any of the commissioners?
Did I understand the documents correctly that based on existing sewer capacity, there would only be 10 permits issued until that sewer project was complete and operational? Did I understand that correctly?
This is Dylan Blyler with TO Engineers. That was in my letter. That was my understanding from the agreement between Lakeview, GCD, and the town. The first phase was the first 10 units in the 20 allowable on the current loading for the lift station that they have in Shoreline right now.
Okay, so the 10 would be the max then until such time as that secondary system comes online and is operational?
10 beyond, sorry, Dylan, so that would be phase 1 is already recorded and those 10 are allowed. 10 beyond phase 1 is what we agreed to because GCD gave us some of theirs until we get that station online.
Yeah, thanks for clarifying.
I think it's in that letter that when we all met together.
Yep, that's what I was referencing. It was a meeting on, I think, May 19th.
Okay, thanks for the clarification.
Just another thing for the planning commission we are intending to record phase 2 as well, so that we can open those roads, even though we know we can't build on it until that station is complete. So just so everybody's aware that we understand it, we know it, but we also know that the town really wants the road open, and for honestly safety and trying to keep people out is really kind of like everybody said, everybody with a Subaru and a Jeep is doing everything they can anyway. So that is our intent. We will record phase 2 so that we can build the next 10. We will also record phase 3 so that we can get the roads open, not only just to Stargazer, but all the way to Shoreline.
So Thomas, since you received all the answers to your questions, does that change your recommendation for tonight's meeting?
Yeah, absolutely. So our
Okay.
recommendation would be that the planning commission favorably recommend this up to the town council for approval for the subdivision for phase 2 and 3. Yeah.
Then I
Are there
move
any,
that.
are there any other questions from the commissioners?
And do
Okay.
we want to open it up to the public for
You
comment?
do need to
Well,
open.
we have
Yeah,
to.
comment,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yes, at this time, we'll open for public discussion, phase 2 and 3 of Lakeview Estates. Thomas, if you could just please let anybody, call on anybody who has their hand raised.
I will do so. I'm scanning right now. And Alicia, remind me, they can raise their hand, of course, by clicking on the bottom of the screen. And if you're on the phone, Alicia, I forget every time.
I do too. It's *9, I think, to raise your hand, and then *6 to unmute.
Okay, thanks. I don't see any hands yet. Give me 1 second. Tony, I don't see any public input at this point.
Okay, there being no one online or on the phone with any questions, we will close the public input part in regards to phase 2 and 3 of Lakeview Estates. That being said, would anyone like to make a motion for a positive recommendation to advance this to the town council?
I'll make the motion subject, of course, to the incorporation of all the points that have been raised by Thomas and TO engineers.
Okay,
I'll second that.
okay, thank you. And then we'll take a vote. Glynis,
Yes.
Donna,
Yes,
Jonathan,
Yes,
and Tony's a yes. Therefore, we'll give a positive recommendation for phase 2 and 3 of the Lakeview Estates to the town and forward that to the town council. Thank you, gentlemen.
Tony, just for the record, I know it might be a little out of order. Carol Tomas did raise her hand. It may be worth hearing what she has to say.
Fine. Go ahead, Carol.
Okay, hi, can you hear me?
We can.
Yes.
Okay, sorry, I just was having a little technical difficulty there, so I'm like, how do I raise my hand? Okay, so I think my concerns about where the bike path will go between Deer Waters and Lakeview Estates will be addressed. I will be sad to see some of that scrub oak go, but I think that might happen given the tentative location of where the path will go. But my concern is before building permits are issued, I know that that Nate has told us that in lots 224 and 225 will be single family dwellings. And when I look at the Lakeview Estates, potential development, and I go to see what model homes are there, I do not see any single story options. So I just want to make sure that we are going to have a single family, 1 story, 1 garage, not a walk-in or an upper level or a lower level walkout, just single family straight away in front of on those lots.
Carol, that's a good point. And I think that was for, correct me if I'm wrong, lots 224 and 225. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
so it's those two up there.
Those two
just
right there.
pointed to. And that was noted as a condition of approval by both the Planning Commission and the council at the last meeting. Certainly when this goes forward to the town council, we'll make sure that we clarify that, but those are restricted to 1-story heights, and we'll make sure that that is included in that final report.
Okay, no, that will make, I will be comfortable with that, and that will make my neighbors adjacent to me very happy. Not that a whole lot of them are on the call, but.
Nope, and I think Nate had committed to that. PT, I think, is aware, correct me if I'm wrong, guys, but that was part of the original condition, so we'll make sure that.
And I know that a lot of things go on because before it arrives at the town council or the planning commission. So I don't know how I have access to see what potentially would be built there. Are they going to be, what are the roof lines going to look like? Who would I contact to find out that information?
Probably, I would say certainly you can work with me as we do the design review on this, but I would also say PT may have information well before it makes its way to us, I'm guessing.
Okay.
Yeah, well, we can share those with you and go over how that looks before we even submit to Thomas. But yeah, I mean, we're all understanding what we're trying to do there. So.
Okay, perfect. All right, well, thank you all very much. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Carol.
Okay, there's no other, nobody else has their hand up late, do they, Thomas, for that?
Nope, that was it. Thanks, Tony.
Okay. So that's all taken care of. We'll move on to the agenda items. Phase 3 at Deer Springs is put over till November 17th. as per their request, as we voted on earlier. The other thing for the discussion is the consideration and possible recommendation to the town council regarding a lot amendment for the Ventori property, consisting of 2-acre parcels to allow 4 residential homes. Thomas, I'll give the floor to you.
Sure. Why don't we, Alicia, if you could scroll down to the concept plan approval for Deer Springs Cottages. I'll walk you guys through that pretty quickly. I think that Nate Brockbank is on. Yep, I see him. So he's here to help clarify any specific questions, but I'll walk you through this. So again, this is for the Deer Springs development. This would be for what is, I think it's noted as phase 8 of the Deer Springs development. This is on the west side of the Jordan L. Parkway, kind of that steep area. I think actually, gosh, it's been maybe a year plus ago, we did a site tour out there when they were originally proposing to do some apartments. It was deemed too dense by the Planning Commission. So we've kind of gone back and forth and worked with Nate to look at some potential cottage development. So I think it was at the 2 Planning Commission meetings ago that was presented. And at that time, the presentation was for about 35 cottage units, maybe up to 1,500 square feet. Exact square footages were yet to be determined. But if they were 1,500 square feet or greater, that would utilize 35 ERUs, which would be a little bit more dense than what the original master development agreement envisioned for this, because right now I think it's proposed for 30 townhouse units, so 30 ERUs. This would be a little more. If Nate recommended some smaller cottage units, those could count as 0.75 of an ERU. And so the number might go down a little bit in terms of ERU, but it's pretty close to what was originally proposed and approved in terms of density for the townhouse units. This would just be a different housing product. Also, part of this proposal would include a kind of a community center with a pool. When this was presented to you all 2 months ago, there were some questions with regard to steep slopes, retaining walls, and commercial development. You all had recommended some commercial development, neighborhood commercial, be incorporated into this. And so if maybe, Alicia, if you don't mind, maybe going down to the site plan, I think it's maybe the next page. Oh, well, actually on that one, you can see where this is relative to the Deer Springs development, far west side of the development. That whole white area up in that north corner is the Deer Springs development, this entire area. And then this little piece is what we're talking about. It's about 8.5 acres. You can scroll up a little bit. This is a little hard for you all to see, but it was an attempt to try to overlay onto Google Earth the proposal. It's probably a little hard to see at this scale, but you could kind of see the slope as it comes down toward the Jordan L. Parkway, which is where that green line is. You can kind of see that this does slope down in. Of course, on the right side of that green line, the east side of that green line, that's all under construction. That's Deer Springs phase 1, phase 2A, and phase 2B. So much of that is already under construction. Alicia, you can scroll up. Thanks. Yeah, this is the site plan. So if just to orient everybody to make sure you're looking at this, thank you, that's perfect. You can see this is the Jordan L. Parkway. All of this on this side is the existing development, Deer Springs 1, 2A, and 2B. So this is looking upslope. So based on the input at the last Planning Commission meeting, Nate did some redesign here. It looks like, I think it's still proposed at, excuse me, 35 cottage units. There's also the area on the southeast corner that is the proposed community center with a pool. And then Nate included on the north area, north of that community center area, some opportunity for commercial development. This is, let me clear that so it's not too messy. So this is the proposed concept development as Dylan and I were looking at this early on, kind of running it through code. Some of the retaining walls got a little bit tall in the far southern portion of this area. And so we made sure that Nate understood that those can only be 2 5-foot retaining walls tiered, or 1 6-foot retaining wall. So we may have to do a little bit of work if this were to be approved and come back for subdivision. We might have to do a little bit of grading work down there, and or maybe eliminate a couple of units, push them further north, etc. But generally, I think this proposal started to get to a place, I think, where you all were asking for it to be. There are some really steep slopes in this north area and in this south area. It may be something that the Planning Commission wants us to address. Maybe we could move some of the density out of there. Maybe that's some elimination. I'm not exactly sure, but those were the only 2 areas where we really noticed significant retaining wall needs and slopes.
So Thomas, what is Exhibit A then?
So Exhibit A was a very simplistic attempt of mine to start to move some of that density. So Exhibit A eliminated about 5 units, and it started to push some of the units further north into some pretty steep slope areas, but it got them out of the big retaining wall areas that you would see down in this area along Jordanelle. I'm not so sure that would work. It's probably something we could explore. Nate can speak a little bit more to it, but that area is pretty steep up there. It's 30% plus, very similar to the area in the south. So there might be, depending upon your input tonight, maybe some need to revise, redesign a little bit. If you guys are generally okay with this concept, that's something that we can certainly look into. And Nate, jump in, feel free to speak if there's something that you need to say, but it might be a little bit of redesign if you're comfortable with generally.
Yeah, so I think we're down to we have 34 units here because we did the one commercial property, so we dropped a unit. So there's 34 right now, and then the commercial component, and then you see the clubhouse there. I think we have 49 extra parking stalls. When we first, if you read Thomas's report, it said we had 27-foot walls. That was from, I think we got a little confused. That was from a map like a year ago. We're down to 10-foot walls right now. And when I say 10-foot, it starts out at 2 and goes up to 10 and back down to 2. And so it's not as bad as having a full 10-foot wall. We'll work on our walls. I mean, we're down from 27 to, I believe our highest wall is 10. We have a couple at 7 feet, and they're not very long actually. And they're behind the homes on the west side. So you won't see these walls at all once the homes get built. I think really, we've talked about this several times. We started out with apartments over there. Thomas came up with the idea of cottages. As a group with Homes, we love the idea of cottages because we have so many townhomes. It gives us a totally different product, and it would be something that we could build because it's a different product. We'd probably start next year. Not probably, I think we would start next year unless the market just totally caves on us.
So how does that fit in with the other phases?
This is actually phase 8. So we'd have to change our MDA to make this phase 3 or probably 3 or 4. Phase 3, if you remember, phase 3 has to be the park. And so we would do the park and this at the same time.
So maybe do phase 3 and this, call it phase 4 at simultaneously. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Nate, could you walk us through the commercial space? How many square feet? Where is it? That kind of thing.
Yeah, it's right in front. You see that the parking right there, right when you come off the road.
Alicia, could you maybe just zoom in a little bit? That might help because
it
is kind of small on here. Oh, perfect. There you go.
And I don't have a square footage on there, but I think it's about 3,000 feet on the main floor, and we could do an upper level. So you could do a total of 6,000 feet, which is probably a little bit big for the area.
What do you envision? I realize you're a little bit of crystal ball. What kind of business, if any, do you think would find that attractive?
Well, I mean, the more building that gets built on the Parkway, the better the commercial is going to be. I mean, right now, it would be very tough to go out and build this. I mean, I think this pad is probably 2 or 3 years away when you get another 400 or 500 homes around the lake and our stuff being built. And I would see, a little coffee shop, a yoga studio, a dance studio, maybe a dentist office. I don't know how much retail it's going to be. It could be office. It could be, I think there's a chance to have some retail, which that's what we'd like as the town because of the tax benefits of the retail. But yeah, it's just hard to say. I mean, it is a harder piece of commercial, just because Jordanelle Parkway is not that built, but there's no commercial that I'm aware of on Jordanelle Parkway. And so it makes it really a unique piece.
Yeah, it's probably I was going to say it's probably more, as Nate noted, cafe, coffee shop kind of something like that. Nate and I were even talking yesterday or today that, there could be an option, even maybe if it were 2 stories, to get an affordable housing unit or something upstairs. Could be one of the workers, could be maybe the on-site manager for the community center across the street. It's something, that we always try to think about in terms of, can we incorporate, maybe an apartment unit or 2, so that folks can live/work in Hideout rather than contributing
so
traffic to come in.
Like Thomas was saying, if this actually gets approved, we plan on owning all of these. We're going to build them and own them. And that's one thing you need to be aware of if you're at all. I mean, we would need to know if this would be for nightly rentals. That's our plan. It's going to be different than the nightly rentals in Deer Waters and probably throughout the town because we would own every one of them with Larry Miller's family. And so we would have probably an on-site manager, which that would be perfect. A little condo above the commercial. But what it does with us owning all of them, it ensures that you guys get your portion of the tax rather than rely on independent companies to come and manage these. We plan on owning all of these units.
What is your assessment of the potential that some kind of carryout or delivery food type of business, whether it's pizza or anything else for that matter, what's your estimate of the potential for that in the 2-3 year time frame?
I actually don't see why not. There's no commercial on this road. And so if things get built out, I mean, really, you could do anything here. I mean, if you have a little pizza place that wants a delivery, there's no place to go except, I mean, you hear that market might be built and they might have some commercial there. I think that was all kind of a big thing when we were trying to get annexed, just to try to scare everyone off, but because they haven't done a thing. But I mean, honestly, with you being the only piece of commercial on the strip or on Jordanelle Parkway, I mean, you could do anything there.
You could do one of those like grocery cafes, like the Deer Valley Grocery Cafe.
Yeah, I'd have to look at it. It's only 3,000, maybe 3,500 square feet. So I don't know. You're talking about grocery, it seems kind of small. I don't know if that's...
Yeah, but the Deer Valley Cafe is pretty small too.
Yeah,
I mean, it's really small.
Things like that would be, I think that would, when more houses get built, that would be something probably real, because you guys are tired of driving into Park City. And so, yeah, I mean, honestly, there's so many things that could go there when things get built out. I mean, right now it'd be crazy to build something there because it's just not ready for it. But I would think over the next 3 or 4 years, if the market continues to do what it's doing now, there'll be a huge need for a piece of commercial there.
The one thing the town really lacks is some kind of little mini mart, takeout food, eat-in, sandwich, coffee, and I view this as rather valuable to try to fill that need.
Yeah, and you guys have those 2 commercial pieces right when you come down that big hill there when you're heading into Deer Springs. You guys have those 2 commercial pieces, which they're very valuable now already because of all the traffic on the highway. So
The other thing about the nightly rentals, this is on like the edge of Hideout. It's not like in the middle of the town. It's on the edge. So I think it's in a prime location to be able to do that.
Yeah, it's on the Jordanelle Parkway, which is great because it's a
Right.
5-minute drive to Deer Valley. And so, I mean, we think it's going to be a huge success. But you guys have to understand, we would be asking for nightly rentals. And if it's something you guys don't want, we will just go back to the 30 townhomes.
When you say nightly rentals, you thinking 1 night minimum, 2 night? What's your thought process?
Well, probably one night. But I would think we'd be crazy to rent a house out for 1 night, but we would, yeah, I'd say 1 night would be a minimum.
And so
Excuse
just
me.
so the planning commission is aware, that is something right now we don't allow nightly rentals anywhere in the town. There's a couple of places that do have them under special circumstances in Claim, I think in particular Deer Springs Phase 1. But right now we don't allow nightly rentals. So while that is not it's a policy question, it's for town council. Certainly
Yeah.
they have to make that decision. So anything you would approve tonight or kind of give a heads up to this concept plan, I think that Nate would, of course, want to take that to the policy discussion at town council regarding nightly rentals. And while it's not a decision for you all, I think your input is going to be important. So if you have feelings one way or the other, I think that that's worth providing Nate that input. To your point, or it was Donna or Glennis, I can't remember who said it, but it is on the other side of Jordanelle. It may be a logical location for nightly rentals if we were to consider it. The town in the survey, the most recent survey, if you remember back in June, is not terribly favorable on nightly rentals. It's about 2/3 against, 1/3 for, but there were nuances. That was asked kind of from a holistic perspective for the town. So there may be, you may believe that there are areas, pockets such as this across Jordanelle that might fit, but I think that kind of information discussion would be helpful to Nate.
Yeah, I just want to get everyone's kind of idea, because if it's something you guys don't want, then I'll quit wasting money. I ordered a study to see how this worked out from, I forget their name. Oh, Lewis and Young.
Nate, you sent me that
Yes.
study. Is that something I can pass on to the planning commissioner?
Sure. So that study
review?
was for 78 townhomes, but you could just take the number and divide it. We have 30 here. So, but yeah, I mean, and we could just update it too if it's something you guys wanted. But if you guys don't want nightly rentals at all, then we will just stop going forward and we'll just wait till we get to phase 8 and do this. But we think it's something that would be really, really beneficial to the town because of the tax benefits, and being right on Jordanelle Parkway. I mean, we just think it would be phenomenal to have that many houses, not townhomes, but houses, right there.
So Nate, can I just comment? Yeah, I was just concerned at the last meeting, when I was reading through the minutes, you had said, there was a survey done, and that you just answered one of my questions on who did the survey. You said several $1 million over 20 years, and several is a very general number. So
let me tell you. Yeah, I said that. Well, so on the documentation. On the study we did, and it was for 78 townhomes, and over 20 years, it would give the town, it might be 30 years, $6.7 million in tax. This is what the study came in tax, property tax, or sales tax, tourism tax. So sales tax was 3.9 million, tourism tax was 2.4 million, and then property tax was 359. So, I mean, now that was for the 78. So when the mayor had me do a study when we were looking to do the 96 apartments and phase 2A and 2B in Deer Waters. So I have not done a study just for this, but you could basically take the number, there were 78, you could take the number and reduce it by 30, and that's what you would come up with.
But actually, wouldn't you be able to rent those nightly rentals in a cottage for more money than a 1-bedroom condo?
I would think so.
Right. So it may not be half, maybe more than half.
Yeah, I mean,
Just trying to be positive. I'm looking at both sides.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's a benefit financially. I think it's a benefit for the town because of the taxes. Obviously, there's several reasons I like it. If I didn't believe in it, I wouldn't be risk. I mean, to build 35 cottages or 34 cottages. I mean, that's several millions of dollars. I mean, we believe in it. We think it's going to continue to be good.
Right.
And it lets us build more units rather than wait till we get to phase 8.
Right.
Because we have 78 townhome lots already developed. There's no reason to develop anything else if they're going to be townhomes, because we probably have 2 years worth of product in front of us.
Yeah. Well, I would just like to see the study. I'm just curious about that.
Yeah, I forwarded it to Thomas. So
okay.
Planning Commissioners, Donna, I'll forward it to you guys tonight.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thanks.
And I do like that. I like the idea that the 6,000 square foot commercial. And if there were nightly rentals, you're correct. I like, both you and Nate, Thomas and Nate, you both mentioned, if you're going to do nightly rentals, it's probably better to do them in that location than anywhere else.
Yeah.
In town. And I do have a question. Are there, I think this was answered on the previous meeting, and I don't remember, the development, the natural retreats, the retreat next door, are they nightly rentals? Does anybody know?
Are you thinking of Sky Ridge, kind of just over, is that the one you're thinking of?
Well, across the street from Black Rock.
Oh,
Park's Edge. Park's Edge?
Yeah, Park's Edge and
Right.
The one we did, Wasatch Springs.
It's Wasatch Springs, that's right. Is
I
that
actually,
rental?
I
Nate?
actually don't know the answer to that.
I don't
Okay.
either.
I'm just curious. It just doesn't seem like a lot of traffic in there, in and out.
Yeah.
I was just wondering if that
I mean,
would be, how
obviously
they do
with-
with nightly rentals.
Obviously, with nightly rentals, you're probably going to have more people up there.
Right.
But it is on Jordanelle Parkway, which is a huge road. It's not going to be going through the town's roads.
Right.
It's basically just going to be using Jordanelle Park. I mean, if you're going to stay there, you're going to go into Park City or you're going to go to Deer Valley.
Right.
I mean, that's the draw.
Right.
So the fire department has identified in its strategic plan that they have a response time problem in our neighborhood. If they come back and say, look, we need some space for an ambulance or a fire truck, fire apparatus, where would that go? And would you be willing to work with them to make that happen?
Well, we don't have enough property up here and it's probably too steep for a fire truck. But I know they've contacted the mayor about one of the pieces of commercial about a year ago that I gave to the town right there on highway. Is it 248? That highway? I get confused.
Yes.
Yes.
248. I know they've contacted him, but I don't think the conversations went anywhere. When we were working on Richardson Flats before all the lawsuits, they contacted us and we had a fire department station down there, and Wasatch County would love to go there. I'm sure they still would love to go there, but we're still 3 or 4 years in lawsuits and several, I don't know how much money, but a lot of money. Before anything there gets resolved. So
Because as population increases, so will the number of calls. And
yeah,
when you're looking at 18 in this neighborhood, maybe 16 to 18-minute response time, and for the bulk of the town, it's in the 20-minute range, and that's a real problem. And so I'm wondering if you have any thoughts on how to address that issue, because that's an important public safety issue in my mind.
this would actually be probably the closest place in Hideout, right? Because they just jump on the Jordanelle Parkway from where they're at. So this location would be the closest, but it's still not good enough. I mean, 18 minutes is not good enough in a mountain, right?
From here, from this point, you could reach the rest of the town in a whole lot less.
Yeah.
At this point, they have to come around from the other side of the reservoir, and that's a 20-minute trip for most of us.
I mean, I think either of those two pieces of commercial right on the highway they might be a little too small. I don't know what size they need, but you're just talking about a small fire station, right? Nothing major.
I would assume that they want to put one piece of fire apparatus, one ambulance, and
Yeah.
sufficient parking for the staff.
And you know where we built you guys that service building there, right there. I know you guys have been adding to get more yard and space to add on if you needed to, but you might be able to fit something there. You know where I'm talking when you go down that, when you turn into Deer Springs where your maintenance building is.
Yeah.
There is quite a bit of room down there. You know, so that may be an option.
Who's the owner of that property right there? Do you
I
know?
was just gonna ask.
I gave it to you. You guys own it.
The
Okay,
town.
so the town owns it.
Yeah, we dedicated the building and the ground to the town.
And do you know the approximate dimensions of that open space?
No, I think it was, I want to say it was a 5-acre lot,
That's plenty.
but it's kind of, you know, it's a different, it's, I want to say oblong because you have to drive in to get to it. And then you guys have opened it up by bringing in more fill and everything. But I would think something would work down there.
Yeah, it could be something where when you drive in toward that.
And I'm not sure, and I don't want to say, because I don't think it's a flat 5 acres. That, I can't remember, that 5 acres might run all the way up to, you know, it goes past your guys' building and then runs up the hill, if I remember right. So you might have 3 acres that's really usable right there.
Yeah, and it might be something where you work kind of into where the public works facility is. Maybe there would be some opportunity to kind of almost put it in the side of the hillside. It would require some retaining, et cetera, but there may be some space there. That is a good point.
Yeah, I think there's definitely space there.
Thomas, if you could share a map of that area with, I would request that. And I don't know if the other commissioners would like it, but I'd like to know, you know, where are we going to go as population expands? This is going to become a bigger and bigger problem.
You know, the other thing, you guys have 3 acres across the street. Across, when I say across the street, across Highway 248.
Mhm.
I think it's 3.5 acres. There is some flat areas right along the highway.
That's an area kind of just north of Claim for the planning commissioners.
Yeah. A map would be nice for you guys to see all this, because, and I know you guys have been, I think there's a couple committees that are working on some of the financial, the best thing for the town and stuff like that on these properties that I deeded over to the town. So.
Well, we did have some recent community charrettes about a month or so ago, and part of the discussion was what to do with the properties that you had dedicated to the town.
Yeah.
And looking at opportunities for neighborhood commercial, et cetera, because we, as you pointed out earlier, we don't have enough neighborhood. So we don't have any right now, but we also don't have any land that's easily accessible or zoned for neighborhood commercial, which is so desperately needed. So one of the things we're looking at with the community charrettes that we've been doing is revisions to potential zoning maps to get those areas designated for neighborhood commercial.
Yeah.
And the 5 acres that you're talking about next to the maintenance building, is that doesn't include the maintenance building?
No, that includes it. It was a 5
No,
acre.
that does include the
It
maintenance.
was either 5 or 6 acres total.
Okay.
So it definitely includes it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, a map of those areas, Thomas, would be terrific.
Yeah, I'll send you guys out one.
Hey, Jonathan, and just for your information too, Tuhey has also approached the Wasatch County Fire Marshal in regard to getting some type of station somewhere where they're developed in their property because of all the expansion that's going on in there too. And the only reason I know that is one of my friends was a former chief in the New York City Fire Department. He's working with them in regard to putting the whole proposal and everything and talking to the Wasatch Fire Marshal.
That location, I mean, while not ideal, it's certainly reduced response time by quite a bit.
Yeah.
Isn't that though in Summit County? It's in Wasatch?
Yes.
But I know, I mean, when we were doing the Richardson Flats, that was going to stay in Summit County, and Wasatch was the one that reached out and wanted to go there. So I don't think that's an issue.
The last item on my list is, if I understood things correctly, you're looking at 22-foot wide roads.
Whatever code is, we would not come off code, whatever code is.
For code, it would be 26 feet wide.
Yeah, so I'm sure we have 26-foot roads in there.
Yeah, and I think that Dylan, he may have a couple other comments, and if you do, Dylan, throw them out. But I think that was in your report as well, that they would need to match our current code, which is 26 back to back.
Yeah, that's accurate. I mentioned that it looked smaller than the right-of-way cross-section.
I can't hear you.
Dylan, you're kind of distant, it sounds.
Can you hear me now?
A little better.
That better?
There.
Okay, sorry, I guess my Bluetooth earbuds went out on me. No, yeah, I just noticed that the cross-section that he had in his concept, which isn't uncommon, it's a concept drawing, did look smaller than the cross-section in Deer Springs Phase 2. So I just commented that the cross-section should meet it. And Deer Springs Phase 2, when it went through, I don't know if the commissioners remember, but they met the future town code, I believe, for the road cross section prior to it becoming the town code.
Yeah, I'll check on that. I mean, there's no way we would do anything less than the code.
Okay.
And not a single above ground sewer pump in anywhere in sight, right?
When you say above ground, the tank, the manhole's above ground, but the sewer is underground.
Right. I don't think anybody's worried about manholes. It's big green fiberglass structures that smell.
Yeah.
None of those, right?
No, and we're glad we're going to be getting rid of that. I think probably by next year, for sure by next year. So.
What was the other comment that you had, Dylan, about the water model? Because the pressures.
Yeah, it's just that they need to assess, it's pretty standard to assess the pressure zone, because the pressure from JSSD at that point is, it's on the, let me think about this, the east side of Jordanelle Parkway. It is a pretty high pressure, but it's also, you know, this goes uphill from there. So we just need them to assess the pressures in that area to make sure that it works with our water model. They have to have a pressure reducing. Go ahead.
I'm just talking off the top of my head, but I'm pretty sure we stubbed water and sewer over there before they did the before they put the asphalt down on Jordanelle Parkway. And I know we did services, what do they call those? You know, 4-inch conduits or 6-inch, whatever they told us they needed, we put those in for power and gas and telephone.
Okay.
So I guess the main thing that I would just like to hear from some of you guys that have an opinion is this something you would want to see with the nightly rentals? Just so we can either move forward or put this thing to rest.
Do we want to hear from the public first, Tony, before we get into that discussion?
This is not listed for public discussion. This is an agenda item.
It's not a vote tonight. It's just, I wanted your opinion.
Nate, this is Tony. Just for what my opinion is, for where the location of them is, I have no problem with the nightly rentals.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree. I think if we're going to do nightly rentals anywhere, this is the best place for them. And I think this looks good. It addresses all the issues we had with the high density big building that was going to be there.
Yeah.
So.
And to be honest, I'm probably going to have to lose probably 2 more units on the south end. So.
I think if you could stretch up the commercial space a little bit, I think the trade-offs are pretty good for the town.
Yeah, let me look, because that parking is a little bit weird right there. I did like 4 different parking things, and I'm not sure that's the one I wanted to present, but that's the one you guys have. So
you do have additional parking in other areas, and I think the parking is something we could look at. We can even look at shared parking opportunities. So I think we can probably get there on parking.
Yeah, this is one thing. I mean, we're definitely over parked. You know, we have tons of parking here.
Mm-hmm.
I liked on the, on that exhibit A, that there were trees when you first came in, or not, maybe not trees, but, you know, landscaping rather than the, parking.
Okay,
And Nate, we would work with you on a landscape plan. I think
yeah,
that's,
for sure.
that's kind of me just kind of doing a crude overlay, but yeah,
Yeah.
make sure that we get some landscaping. Yeah.
Okay.
Also,
the
sorry,
black-
this is,
I was just gonna say
No,
the
finish
black
this.
is the parking.
Yeah. Yeah. Dylan, what were you saying?
Yeah, just sorry, I hadn't had my report pulled up. So the only other thing that I had on my letter just to report is that there are some 30% slopes on the north and south end of the development. So it's at a concept level now, so we don't expect a physical constraints analysis, but we would want any of the cottages off of the 30% slope. So that can be looked at closer to, but it looks like it might be something of interest.
Yeah, we do have, I think we have 4 or 5 in the 30% slope. So we could do, I mean, yeah, you guys just tell me what you want to do there with some kind of study or analysis. See what it looks like.
Yeah, I mean, we'd like to see a slope stability analysis for when it's between 25 and 30, but it's been my understanding that we want to keep development off of the 30%.
Is there a potential with all the juggling you're contemplating to stretch the commercial space a little bit?
Well, yeah, we just, I mean, if we determine that we could lose some of that parking, you see how that parking structure, we could lose 4 or 5 stalls there and widen it out maybe 2,000 or 3,000 more feet.
Yeah, I think that's very likely.
So we can look at that.
Yeah, Nate, you and I can play with that. I think that's very likely.
Okay.
Because I could get a little more excited over a little bit bigger commercial space, because that just holds open the options for additional businesses.
Yeah. Yep. Jonathan, what's Commissioner Gunn, what's your idea on the nightly rentals? Or
I think with some expanded commercial space, I think it's a good trade-off for the town. The town needs commercial space, and so I think we could work that out with a little more commercial space. I think I could probably, you know, depending on more details, of course, but the general concept I think I can get behind.
Okay.
Just a little more commercial space.
I think Commissioner Turner, you said you were okay with it, I think already.
Well, this is Tony. I know I am between the commercial and what the tax revenue that the cottage rentals would bring in, and the location.
Tony, I already put you down as a yes.
Oh, okay.
I don't have anything from Commissioner Turner or Cooper.
Oh, Turner. I didn't hear my name, sorry. I did want to see the survey. I've never seen a survey done on this before, so I did want to see that. So I would say I would be favorably for this, for a little more commercial space.
Okay. And I have a survey, Thomas. I think you have it, but it's been a while, but I'll forward it to you again.
Well, I have Nate, just to be clear, I have the one you sent me this morning. That's the most current nightly rental assessment, right?
Yeah, I mean, we've been working on this for almost a year and a half. So I think you have I'll send you a new one, because we do have a survey on just this piece.
Oh, okay, great.
So
I'll send you that one, because this one was for 78 units, which was kind of a different configuration. So I'll wait until Nate sends that to me, and I'll send that to you guys. I'll also include a map so that you guys can see the areas.
Oh, sorry. When you say survey, I meant survey like a boundary survey with topo.
No.
You're talking the survey for the 78.
The rental,
Okay.
the nightly rental.
Thomas,
survey.
that's all I have. Sorry.
Okay, so just to be clear, Nate, the
Yeah.
one that I got that addressed the 78 units,
Yeah.
send that one to the planning
Yeah,
commission.
because it's basically the same, but it's just
Assume
less
it's
stress.
78, divide by 2, cut the numbers in half, and roughly
Yeah.
that's what you'd be looking at. Okay,
Yes.
I'll send that.
Okay.
So I'm tentatively saying yes.
Okay. Got it.
Definite me.
And then Rachel's not here, Nate, so
Okay.
you won't get any.
Oh, actually, she texted me. And she said, I think it's a good idea.
Okay. Well, I think I'll work with Thomas and Tim and whoever else, and obviously Dylan and Ryan, and kind of fine tune this before we bring it back to you guys for probably preliminary. So,
And Nate, I appreciate you working with us on this. I mean, you've really.
oh, you guys have been fabulous. I mean, I go to some cities and they say go to hell. So you guys have been great. So we finally, hey, I don't know if you guys knew, but we finally finished the park today.
Yay!
I mean, there's a few things we have to do, but we got the sod down. The benches and tables haven't come yet. I don't know if anyone's played pickleball, but still a few
I've
things
seen
I want to do the
people up
pickleball
there.
courts. But I mean, it turned out a lot better than I thought it was going to. So I'm actually really happy. But you guys should swing by. We had enough sod. We had enough water to do 8,500 square feet of sod, and I think it turned out just
Wow.
great.
So are you talking about the pickleball court that's already
Yeah.
there?
Yeah, we just
Yeah.
finished it today with sprinklers and the
Awesome.
lawn and so yeah, go look at it. The playground, I still have to bring in the bark. That's
Yeah.
next week, but I think it turned out really, really nice.
Yeah, just in time for snow on Sunday.
I know, unfortunately. I mean, honestly, I ordered stuff 4 or 5 months ago, and the tables haven't even gotten here yet. So,
I did have a question though about the road. Just came to my mind here across Jordanelle, that phase, and I don't remember which phase number that is. That's going down the hill, or depending on when do you expect that to be built? The 3 plexes and 4 plexes in there.
well, I think we just barely recorded our maps. I was told like in the last day or two, and so
Okay.
we're turning in for 13 permits right now.
Okay, and that road's open.
Yes, it's still closed, but it should be open now because the maps are recorded.
Okay.
I mean, Polly would know better than me, but when I talked to PT, because he's in charge of recording the maps, he said everything was recorded. I don't know if that's just been a couple days or just barely, but they're both recorded now. So that road should be open.
And you're opening up 13 lots or 13
13 townhomes, yes.
townhomes. Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
We'll turn those in to the city, but middle of next week to hopefully get approval on those.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks.
I, for one, appreciate the cooperative relationship. I think it gets us closer to a win-win for both the town and you, obviously.
Well, I feel the same. I mean, you guys are awesome to work with. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Staff and everyone, you guys, yeah, I mean, I just can't say enough. As you know, I mean, I fully believe in this town. I put my whole career on the line by doing that annexation, and it hasn't gone as well as we thought, but there's still hope. There's still hope. So, but yeah, so.
Yeah, we're going to need an assisted living place for me.
Yeah,
Really.
I know.
By the time
know.
that's done.
Exactly. Yes, exactly. And I'll be the first one there.
Good point, Donna.
Let me please.
Hey, well, thank you guys.
Thank you,
Unless
Nate.
there's any more questions, but swing by and look at the park and shoot me off an email what you think. I think it turned out great, or give me some ideas of what you want. Someone popped over and said they wanted on the pickleball court, one of those little flags so they can see which way the wind's blowing. I forget what they call that, but
Wind sock.
Yeah, a sock. I don't know which one you said play pickleball, but the court, I think the court turned out beautiful. I really like it. So.
Okay.
Check it out.
Okay, well, thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
thanks.
you.
Nate.
All right, thanks.
Thomas, are we just going to put this over for further discussion in November, or just wait for him to bring it back up?
since this is not a public hearing, I think you guys generally kind of gave a thumbs up for him to continue to work with us and kind of go to the next stages. So we'll continue to do that. We don't have to dedicate a date certain for this to come back. So as we work through pieces, we'll bring it back, and or, after Nate's going to have to approach the town with regard to this nightly rental question. That's a town council policy question. And so once he gets through that, that hearing and their recommendation and their vote, then he'll make a decision how to come back. Based on his input tonight, if they do not decide to allow nightly rentals in this area, he'll simply come back for this particular phase at a later date as townhouses. If they do give a favorable vote, it sounds like he'll come back with a preliminary subdivision much more quickly for cottages.
All right, great, thank you. So I believe that's it. And that covers everything that was on the agenda for tonight's meeting.
We do actually have one more, just another concept review, actually. It's for the Venturi property.
Oh, okay.
Yep, so there is one
sorry.
more. I don't know if the applicant is on, but I want to walk you.
That's the one they want to put the 4 homes on the two acre parcels.
That's correct. Yep.
Yes.
Do you want me to kind of walk you through this one pretty quickly?
Please.
Sure. So again, this is called the Venturi subdivision. This is over at the north end of, what is that? The north end of, I always get the roads mixed up, Shoreline.
Shoreline,
right?
North Shoreline.
North Shoreline Court. Okay. And so.
Road.
Road. Okay. And then the court is the road above it that was originally envisioned to come down and connect for both connectivity reasons and safety reasons. Some folks up on North Shoreline Court did not really support the connection. But with that being said, the applicant has come back with a new proposal. And maybe, Alicia, if you're driving, maybe could you go to maybe the drawing, go a couple pages down, and I can speak to it. If you go right about maybe there, and you might want to zoom in just a little, but that kind of gives you all a pretty good understanding of the location. So you can see North Shoreline Court up there. You could see that originally when this was envisioned, the idea was that there would be a connection down to North Shoreline Drive. This gets pretty steep in this area right here, and so it does get a little bit complex. So the applicant does have this triangular area, and right now this is zoned mountain residential, and this area is actually outside of the master HOA, the MDA. It's just a little triangle that was located outside. So it's zone mountain residential, which is your new mountain designation for zoning that was implemented in 2020. The requirement, the minimum lot size requirement is 1 acre per unit. The intent here, as originally envisioned, was less density, single family housing, and recognition of some of the steep slopes. So that's why it's my understanding why this was originally zone mountain and then carried over to mountain residential. Both have basically the same setback requirements and minimum lot size of 1 acre. So the proposal, the concept proposal before you tonight by Nassar is to look at a concept for 4 houses. It's worth noting on this drawing, you can see it pretty well. Again, there was no connection recommended for North Shoreline Court, but rather this little road, this little eyebrow road that would come off of North Shoreline Drive. And then driveways would extend off of this to the 4 lots. If, as this is proposed, it's about a little over a half an acre, give or so, per lot, and it's recommended, and they're proposing single family units. Maximum height here allowed is 35 feet. Front yard setbacks are 60 feet from a major road, and the rear yard setbacks are 30. Side yard setbacks between buildings are 25 feet. So generally, I think they've maintained the setbacks, but the lots would be much smaller. The side yard setbacks may need a variance as well. if you go to the next image, that might be a little bit easier for people to kind of see what it looks like zoomed in a little bit. I can clear that. You'll see the 4 lots as proposed here. So you can see the kind of the eyebrow road off of Shoreline Drive. You can see the 4 driveways. You can kind of see the unique configuration of the buildings. So really, this is a concept proposal for 4 lots where 2 are allowed. So if you were to give a thumbs up, a head nod for this concept, the applicant would still have to come in for a rezone because the current zoning doesn't allow half-acre lots. It requires 1-acre lots. And then after assuming that rezone was successful, it met with it was in compliance with the general plan, your comprehensive plan, then they would then have to come back for preliminary and final subdivision. So this concept is being presented before you so that they can get an understanding of whether to proceed with those next steps or not. So it's really an issue of how comfortable are you with an increase in density? The slopes here are pretty steep. Would you be comfortable with this kind of a driveway? I know Dylan probably has some concerns and recommendations on the driveway. Tim and I discussed it in some detail, and we would need to, I put some notes in my report, we need to understand the total length of that road, the radii on each corner, on each kind of end of that road would need to be expanded to allow better access for EMS vehicles. The town would not want to maintain this road. We would want for this to be a private road, and we would need improved snow storage locations. And Tim is certainly, I think he's on, he could certainly provide more input there. Dylan, I know, also had some very similar concerns with regard to the width of the road, the slopes of the road, et cetera. We don't have that information yet, but again, we're at concept. So this is really about, do you support a concept where we don't bring down North Shoreline Court to this road to improve EMS vehicular connectivity, 1, and 2, what's your tolerance for additional density? So I'm here to answer any questions. I don't know if Nasser is on, but I'll scan as you ask me questions.
I'd like to first comment, if you don't mind. The last time we were presented with this, it was basically the same. Maybe the road was different. You know, they came up through the back, but he still is going for 4 units. I clearly stated that I would not approve. I would not vote for 4 units on here to increase that. I think it's too crowded. I don't like that there's 2 entrances there on Shoreline. You have a slope coming down on Shoreline. There's a blind corner on the upper part there. And there's also that trail going there. And I feel like I've already reviewed this and made my comment in that, you know, I really don't like having the 4 units, 4 lots broken up, or the 2 lots broken up into 4.
Okay.
I mean, so that's what I mean, and I commented that already. And again, like you said, this is it's going to be like a driveway. If he has to have, you know, if he needs another road to come in, another driveway, have 1 entrance. And I said I would look at 3 lots. But not 4. I think that's just it's just I don't I
Too
think it's
much.
too crowded.
Yeah, I agree with Donna. When I first looked at this, I thought, now there's 2 entrances where people are coming and going.
Mm-hmm.
If this were a one-way road where you could only go in one way and come out the other way, I think it would be more effective. But it's not a town road, so I don't know if you can enforce that, but and yeah, 4 is just at least 1 too many.
So just start making something. Especially the home on the end and that little in that triangle. I feel like it's just kind of they're just trying to fit it in for a family member. I remember he said that he wanted his whole family was going to be in there. I just, I again agree with Glynis. If it was one way, maybe, but again, then you have two, I don't know, two entries. I mean, you just have somebody coming over the hill, even if it is 20 miles an hour, you have snow, ice. This isn't Route 80 where they, it's kept clean all the time. I could see people coming down that hill and somebody turning in, and I'm not too thrilled with the concept.
Do we know how steep those driveways are going to be? What the slope is?
Dylan, you may have a better understanding of that. I don't think that we saw, let me look at my documents. I don't think that we had a detailed slope analysis, but
Yeah, I don't, it's a grading plan or anything.
Tim, I don't think we had a slope, did we? I don't think we had a slope, the detailed slope, but especially the area to the left of the screen, it gets pretty steep over there. The right of the screen is pretty steep too. So yeah, we don't have that yet, but we could get it if you all felt we should move forward.
Well, I share Donna's concern, this notion that somebody could be sliding down the driveway into the roadway. Depending on how steep that is and depending on how well it's maintained, I'm concerned about that. But did I read correctly? They want a 27-foot retaining wall?
I don't think we had retaining walls listed in this one. That was actually on the southern section of the Deer Springs cottages that you all just reviewed. That was in that area, but now we're proposing to move that back and reduce those retaining walls. I don't think it was here.
Okay, then I'm a little confused.
Unless Dylan, if I missed something in your report, certainly correct me if I'm wrong. And go ahead.
Sorry, this isn't in my report, but there are proposed retaining walls on sheet 4 of 5 on the south side. But it looks more accessory to the structure for lot 4 rather than for essential for the development. And then as to the driveways, I didn't estimate slopes on those. I mean, I could, probably wouldn't at a concept level, but as a general rule, we don't like to see driveways over 14%.
Yep, that's, I think, the maximum we typically have approved. And Alicia, I think you pointed out that James Carroll is representing Nassar. So James, if you can unmute, if you have any input for the planning commissioners, certainly feel free to.
Okay. Yeah. Can you hear me?
We can.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm thinking as you're scrolling there, I saw something again about 27-foot retaining wall, but that has nothing to do with this project. But I know Nassar has been,
that was in my report. Just to be clear, that was a mistake. That was meant for the Deer Springs cottages. So exclude that. Sorry.
Okay, thank you, because
that's where I think I got it from.
Oh, sorry about that. That was a carryover.
Yeah, I just saw that on there. I think I've seen it once before. I thought, well, not for this project. So I was hoping John would be here, John Barris with Epic Engineering, who's laid all this out. We tried back and forth, and Nassar's overseas and said he might try to join, but I'm just here trying to represent his thoughts on this, and we would hopefully be doing the home designs for each of these if this goes forward. One thing, so we tried many ways to connect North Shoreline Court, the upper drive down. It was just, we could not get anywhere near less than 14% slope on that road. So we eventually just gave up on that and then went for this option, which all of these, I was hoping it was shown on the on one of the plans from Epic Engineering, but if I remember correctly, that private drive, there's not over 10% slope on there. It's pretty much flat where it goes across from one end to the other. And yeah, I was hoping that maybe that we might see it laid out on here somewhere. But you can see by the topo, actually, I mean, it's just barely rising across from one end to the other. There's a bit of a rise on the right-hand side where you come in. The other side, it's we're having to fill in that ravine there somewhat, but it's a really flat private road. All the driveways would not exceed 10%. We're proposing the driveways to come off this private road into a lower level garage. And then the homes would be up on top of that garage. You might come into the main entry, garage level, maybe there's a small rec room, and then you would walk up to the main living space, and then on up to maybe some bedrooms on the top floor. And some of these
Oh, go ahead.
homes are homes that we just placed on there, so we'll have to match the home size to these lot sizes and what works on the property. One thing I wanted to point out though is back on September 22nd, Clint Nearing's got back to us from the Wasatch Fire. Just to show, we were inquiring about the width of the road. I was inquiring also about whether we could have a one-way road, but what limits it as far as the Wasatch Fire Department goes and some of the codes. And this is what his note back to me, James. Wasatch Fire allows up to 3 single-family dwellings on a shared private drive of 20 feet. If we have over 3 dwellings, the 24 feet with rolled gutters would be required, or 26-foot total hard surface. And then the other access requirements would be specs on the turning radius and grade. So that was his last review on this on September 22nd.
What did he say about the turning radii?
If you can, there should have been one of these that we actually laid out. I thought it was included in this plan that shows the fire truck and the, maybe it's down one more. There it is. So that shows the turning radius of the fire truck that we were required to use, and shows how that can maneuver through this layout.
Pretty tight.
It is. It is.
Not
to say that
one
we
slip
could,
and you got a stuck fire truck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and the one thing that why I had mentioned, this is Tim, why I had mentioned that we need to have both radiuses widened out is you can see the truck's only entering exit one way, and we know that may not be the case necessarily. So both radiuses would have to be widened out to show appropriate that, you know, if it's coming from the south end of town and trying to go to a fire on lot 1, you know, we don't know which way they're going to come, right? I mean, so the way they have it is probably correct. But let's say they're out somewhere else. Maybe they're in Camas, they went to lunch and right. And so they're coming back and they're and maybe they're coming from the south and have to go through. So that's why I mentioned both radiuses need to be widened out appropriately. But yeah, it shows it that it can fit through, and I love that. It's called auto turn, and you can put that template down on any project, and it'll show appropriately whether a fire truck or UPS truck or 10-wheeler, not that we have one, or an airplane can fit through proposed road layouts. So yeah, so that's part of the thing. It is tight though, Jonathan. You're right.
Yeah, one slip and now you got a an 80,000-pound fire truck stuck in the snow.
Let's see. I wish I could remember 100% for sure that the whole idea of this might change your thought a little bit, but I believe that Nassar had intended to heat this driveway. I know he was going to, when we had the proposed drive going up behind the homes on the uphill side, but it was just too steep. We could get, if we got the driveway to work, well, then we did have really tall retaining walls up there, and there was still no way to connect to North Shore or whatever it's called up there. It was just too steep of a grade, plus just enormous amount of retaining. And if we had got that to work somehow with the civil engineer, then he was going to heat that driveway. So I think he might still be contemplating heating this, except that this is so gradual a slope. I don't know why it would be necessary. 10% or less slope.
To this subject, I guess I would defer to the fire department who has more knowledge. But I have a few concerns as well. I mean, I'd sure like to hear or see some opinion from them on this, because it can't have and the steepness of the connections to Shoreline Drive is a primary concern to me. Perhaps you could address that after you look a little harder at it.
Yes, I'm trying to look at maybe if you scroll the drawing, I'm trying to remember. I mean, north is up, I think, on this. So I guess on the no, north is sideways.
So
Yeah.
I drive that street every day. And there is a hill and there is a curve right there on the right side of the street.
On the right side.
Yes, and right by the trail. You can see the trail dotted right in there.
Yes.
There's
Yes.
a curve. And I go very slowly early in the morning because, the deer and everything, and I'm just ready for deer to come out right at that curve. And, that really concerns me right there where it shows the fire truck going in.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, one little, like I said, it can get a little slippery in there, especially in the winter. And even
Sure.
in the summer, even in regular weather and everything, there's no issues, but, you do have that grade down, and I can't imagine a road being right there. I mean, it would be a blind spot, and I don't know if that was looked at or not.
I don't know for sure. I know what you're referring to because I've walked that with Nassar, and I think John as well.
Well, if you,
If-
drive it, even if you just drive it, you'll see there's like it's a downhill and a curve right by the trail.
Right,
head,
right.
And which
Yeah.
is pictured on there, which is not
Yeah.
far from the entrance to the driveway.
Well, the other end is so flat. We have to fill in that little gully, but maybe it's just the one entrance and it comes up, and then
Mhm.
there's a hammerhead
Mm-hmm.
or something turnaround, and we eliminate that.
Yeah, the bottom entrance seems to me good. There is that gully. It looks like wetlands down there almost. Sorry, speaking from East
Yeah.
Coast.
For further
But-
to the no, that's
yeah.
fine. It is when you go further to the
Mhm.
north.
Mhm.
It really
Um,
drops off into that low area out there, but right by you'll see that there's a grate in the road there that we're keeping the drive in, and if you were to go out there and stand by that grate, you can see it. It's so flat right through there. So that's the ideal entrance and exit if we were to just use the one entry.
Yeah.
And then work with some sort of a hammerhead turnaround at the end.
Yeah, personally, I think it's dangerous to have the one on the upper slope on the right side of the picture.
Mm-hmm. I was thinking myself that we're only talking 4 homes here, so I don't know how often one would be coming and going.
It only takes one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But what was it that you said that the fire chief that got back to you basically said that they would only service 3 houses?
I was asking him, and the engineer was asking, in regard to the width of the road, whether this would be a private drive or a private road or whatever it was. And so again, he got back to me, Clinton Nearings, Wasatch Fire allows up to 3 single-family dwellings on a shared private drive of 20 feet. So a shared private drive, and that only needs to be 20 feet wide. And then he went on, he said, if we have over 3 dwellings, the 24-foot with rolled gutters would be required, or in parentheses, 26 feet total hard surface. And what we're proposing here, Nasser preferred the 24-foot wide road, private road with rolled gutters. He thinks it's a cleaner look to have the rolled gutters along the side, keep the landscaping in place. And I mean, it's a more formal look with the rolled gutters. It costs more with the rolled gutters rather than going with, but those were the 2 choices. We could have just 26 feet of total hard surface. But you know how that over time kind of breaks off on the edges. It looks more, to me, it looks more, unformal, more natural to have just a wide driveway with the edges broken off over time, but more rustic, I guess, is the thing. He wanted more of a formal look. But those are the 2 choices the fire marshal gave us. If we had over 3 dwellings. And the one dwelling at the very end on the triangular piece is that's 0.82 acres, and we're showing a fairly small home there overall footprint wise, just because to the north of that proposed roof layout that you see of the house, it just drops right down into the gully to the north. So it's very difficult to build out there. Well, it's over 30% slope anyway to the north of that home as shown.
Is he pretty firm on building 4 homes there instead of 3?
He is, speaking on his behalf, since he's not here. Yes, he really is. And he's gone back and forth. I mean, if this were to be a family compound of sorts, one of those homes would not be built. It would be used for a swimming pool and probably a pickleball court or something. But again, I'm not sure how this is in with the town code. With some places that we've done, you're not allowed to just put a swimming pool in a vacant lot. It has to at least have a house that meets the minimum requirements of a single family home.
If you were to do something like that, if you were to have 3 houses in a pool, you'd want to make one of the lots larger and include the pool on that so that it's an accessory use to that primary use.
Okay.
That's a possibility if you're really looking at 3 units instead of the 4.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, he's only allowed pursuant to the code, the general plan, our ordinance, to do 2 units, to do 2 lots.
Mm-hmm.
If there are no other questions from the commissioners, do you want us to explore, dig a little bit deeper with James and Nasser to look at 3 lots? Do you want to hold firm with your current zoning and leave it at 2? Any recommendations how you want us to move forward? Again, this is a concept plan. It's really not up for approval. It's really up for direction, I think, at this point. So your input would help us.
Maybe could I ask
Thomas,
one more
this is
question?
Todd. I'll tell you my opinion is I'm opposed to the 4 lots. I'm in agreement with Donna and Glynis that it's just too much. I wouldn't mind looking at a concept for 3 to see what that looks like. but I'm definitely not 4-4.
Okay,
I'm kind of in the same camp,
okay,
and you got to do something with the road.
okay. We can work with James and Nasser on that, and
Okay,
me and Tim and Dylan, I think we can do that. Yeah. James, does that make sense to you?
it does, and
Yep.
just to
Okay.
help me understand a little bit more, I understand the direct, it's 2 lots now, and we're asking to go to 6 or 4. If you scroll back up to that first overview, yeah, and maybe zoom in a little bit. I'm just trying to, and I know those are condominiums to the south, and we are showing, other than that house on the north, that smaller one, we are showing, I guess all those homes that we're showing are around 2,400 to 2,800 square foot on the footprint. Living space plus a 2-car garage, and some of those which would be buried under the house. So it's a little, if you just look at that picture, it's a little misconceiving as to what size home footprint there might be there. I'm not saying maybe one of these wouldn't be as large as what you see, but I do look at those in context with the condominium developed next door, which is a lot higher density, it seems like. Of course, they're condominiums, but I'm just wondering too, maybe it with Nasser not being here to give his input, why the pushback on 4 fairly large lots.
I might be able to take a stab at that. Well, when the community was laying out the zoning pursuant to the general plan, they were looking at housing differentiation and pockets of different kinds of housing at different locations. And so this was a location that was dedicated initially as mountain residential, was a single family large lot units. The slope is pretty significant in this area. I think there was a desire to preserve some of the native vegetation in the slope and to offer a different product in the area.
Okay.
That it was kind of interspersed throughout. So as you look at it, that is, you're right, it is different from what's there, but by design.
Okay, all right. I just wanted to relay some of that back to Nasser.
Certainly, yeah.
And also Shoreline there next door is not a condominiums, they're twin homes.
Twin homes, yes.
It's
Sorry.
3,500 square feet each. So it is nice to have that variation. And I do appreciate that variation, as Thomas had said. Thank you.
Okay.
Great. So James, we'll be reaching out to you, and we'll start to we'll look at some different options, and we'll explore those with you.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, and now I believe that is everything that was on the agenda for this month's meeting. Am I correct now, Thomas?
You are indeed.
Thank you. Does anyone want to bring forth a motion to adjourn this meeting?
Just before we do that, I'm sorry if I could, I said I would send you all the nightly rentals. I will send you that nightly rental report from Nate. I might do this in the morning because I've got to package it with the plan so that you guys see the dedicated properties from Nate. I'll put both of those together. I'll package that up for you guys in the morning if that's okay, and do it as a single.
Oh, that's fine. Thank you, Thomas.
Okay.
Much appreciated.
Mhm.
So Tony, you're looking for a motion. I will make it.
Thank you. Does anybody second it?
I'll second it.
Okay, then we'll take a vote on it. Glynis,
Yes.
Donna,
Yes.
Jonathan,
Yes.
and Tony's a yes. Okay, therefore the meeting is adjourned. Next one is, I believe, November 17th. Also, as a side note, Jonathan, I just want to thank you for attending that meeting that I sent you the information about, and I'll be back November 21st. So sometime maybe after Thanksgiving, we can get together and discuss what happened on it. Would you have time? Great,
Yeah,
thank you.
I'll find time. Thank you for offering me the opportunity. Much appreciated.
Okay, thank you, everybody, for tonight, and have a good weekend.
Thank
Yep.
you. You
Night.
Thanks
too.
all.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Good
Bye,
night.
everybody.
Good night.